Today I'm going to talk about something that, as for bug bounty hunters, it's called IDORs. So IDOR, and so my name is Isuru Vishwanath, and I am a security researcher at Bug Zero. So before we start, I want to make a disclaimer so there that
Recording in progress.
this presentation is that's for educational and awareness purposes. So, and this is especially for bug hunters who are interested in finding this type of vulnerabilities in web applications. And also keep in mind that before you test anything, just verify that you have a permission to check it in real world applications. So so first, today I'm going to talk about uh, IDORs. So I'm first going to give you introduction to IDORs, and then I'm going to talk about how you can find IDORs, what kind of methodology you can use to find IDORs, and then I will do a little bit of a small demonstration on how to find IDOs with the Burp Suite. So, so IDO is a kind of a security vulnerability where when the server side does not properly validate the input that user provide in an application. So or it's not properly authorized. So unauthorized persons can actually go to these endpoints if it's not properly managed. So, and I'll talk about what object is. So before going into IDOS, we need to first understand what is object in applications. So typically object can be anything, like it is for example, if you take a like social network, so in users, post, comments, things like that are also considered as objects. So in also the e-commerce sites, products, orders, customers, and so on, those are also considered as an objects. So let's take it for example, just to get an idea of what IDORs can be like. So in this example, we have two people, so Alice and John. So let's say Alice want to send 1,000 rupees to John. So first Alice have a bank account. This is the bank, and then Alice will in his web app will try to send the money through the web UI and enter the amount and the select let's say the account number and send the request. So let's say the Alice is not a normal person. Let's say Alice is actually a hacker. So what Alice would try to do then? So this is like the normal flow, right? So like normally how this should work is, so the sender, there's a request to the backend, the bank backend, so which consists of this endpoint called transfer money, and then it has three parameters called from account, to account, and amount. So now if the or everything goes right, then John will receive the money, right? Now there is another way around for this. Is so there is an issue here in this whole this request, which Alice can manipulate to, instead of sending the money, retrieve the money from John's account without his knowledge. So can any of you like give a suggestion on the chat how to do this? Just by manipulating this this request. It's okay. I will explain how this going to work as well. If this goes away, so right. So the attack scenario should look like, so Alice can modify, let's say in this parameter, you can see this is like the from account is from Alice account. This is to this account is the Jones account, right? What happens if the Alice can switch these two to from account to Jones account and to account to the Alice own account? Then instead of sending the money, actually what's gonna happen is the Alice going to get retrieve that money from a Jones account. And though this is can be occurred due to not proper validation on the server side, and does not provide any proper authentications authorization parts for this endpoint. So if you want to like find this kind of vulnerabilities, like then you can like look for always like these kind of parameters, like this like look for these critical endpoints, right? So like transfer money can be a critical endpoint, so keep an eye on for the parameters like this, and try to like always like try to understand what this endpoint do before you change anything. Sometimes like changing just this value, it will not going to affect it at all. So if you like put a random integer or something into here, it will not going to do any good. Sometimes you have to like understand how application handles it, right? So let's say the Alice, let's say the bank is only allowed this to work if these both users in like a same account group. So there's like a group, and if either of these users are not out of this group, it will not going to work. So if you put a random integer, random user account, it will maybe not gonna work, and you will think there's no vulnerability here. So keep in mind also that just uh, always check for like understand how the entire like functionality before you test it further. And let's look at so why should we go for IDORs? So we also know I know some of you may already bug hunters, and you may also heard of other vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, maybe SSRF, and so on. And we know that those type of issues are very critical, can be very critical issues. So why should we go for IDOS instead of those? So one thing can be, even though IDOS is like very simple type of thing, so you can see this in this request, we didn't do much. We just changed two parameters, and then we just able to find a critical vulnerability in the system like that. So we can get a higher impact vulnerabilities, and these are very easy to spot as well. Like you can see, if you monitor the network traffic on the application, you can find these sort of requests, a lot of these kind of requests. And also these are very common in web application and APIs, like REST APIs and GraphQLs. And also IDOS can be automated using some of the tools. I will talk about that in later. So when it comes to finding IDOS, this is kind of like my methodology that I use. So this, you don't have to go through this, but it's just something that I like to use. So what I do first is I set up my environment, which I personally test IDOS issues manually than automate. I don't use much of automated tools for testing all IDOs. So I mostly use Burp Suite for as my tool, for my best tool. So I first set up that, and then I will go for, at step 2, I will go for exploring and understanding the application, which means if it is a web application, then I tend to go like discover all the pages, and like I submit all the forms and all that stuff, and try to explore the application much deeper and understand the functionalities. Then after that, I also tend to find hidden endpoints and more parameters, because endpoints and parameters are the key point of finding IDO vulnerabilities. And after doing that, I go for testing. So then I will go for either manual or automated test, using Burp. So now I'll explain how do I set up my environment. So first I install, I have a Burp Suite set up with Firefox. You can use any browser, but I use Firefox, but I think because it has so many plugins for that. You can also use Chrome. Chrome is also good. So then in the Burp, I also use like repeater and intruder tab mostly, because and community edition of Burp is pretty much enough to do bug bounty, I would say. But if you're going to like automate things more and try to use more extensions and all, you should you can also buy a paid version or a pro version. So yeah, when you're testing like IDOs, I think the community edition is pretty much enough. So then I also use Postman. You may also, some of you know a Postman already. It's good for like testing APIs, and you can just create, you can request to an API server, and then like get through that. So this is really good for GraphQL. So I use Postman for testing GraphQL APIs, and these are some plugins for Burp Suite for when you're finding IDOs. So one is called Paraminer. So this is also free on Burp. You can go to extension tab. I will actually explain how to get this extension to the Burp as well. And then you have Authorize, which is also really good to automate the finding IDOs issues. I have Auto Repeater, and Turbo Intruder is like a replacement for Burp Intruder, which gives you much more functionalities, and it allows you to write your own scripts and run it. I think Turbo Intruder is really good when it comes to like finding vulnerabilities such as race condition issues. It can send requests pretty faster, very like simultaneous requests. So, and I use JS Finder. It's good for discovering hidden endpoints on web applications through JavaScript actually. So for the next step, of course, I'm going to go through the web application and try to visit every possible places I can. Let's say I get an e-commerce website, and I try to like go through everything, like user creation to buying things, all that stuff. So one of the things that I want to talk about is that so bug bounty can be very challenging at the moment, actually, because so many hunters are hacking. So, and there is also still possibility that you can find very critical issues if you go like beyond the limited space, which means like buying products. Some of the application on bug bounty programs let's say they offer free trial, so free tier version. So if you only test it on free tier, you can only access like half of the application. You're not going to access the entire application if you work on the free tier. So, but if you buy the one or get their free trial, you can actually explore more content and maybe even find more endpoints, and find that will lead you to find more critical issues. So yeah, you can spend on this step really long time. Actually, it's because this step is very crucial for your findings. If you have good endpoints, if you have many endpoints and parameters and all, then it's easy for you to test all that for finding IDORs. So, and also if you are dealing with an restore GraphQL, try to like read the documentation. So that's very important. Like most of the public APIs actually have a documentation. You can read that and to like identify their structure, or how their API structure works, and then through that you can actually build your attack scenarios. And for GraphQL also, there's a way to like you can get the GraphQL schema. So and you can import that schema into a Postman, and then through that you can test each of the requests individually. So that's also really really good stuff to look at. Right. So in the next step, so you need to find more endpoints and parameters that is maybe hidden. So in this step, what we're doing is we just like looking at the things that we available for us. So the web application gives us, right? But in this step, we tend to find more hidden ones and more hidden endpoints and parameters. So for this phase, you can use some tools like param miner. I mentioned it before. So what param miner allows you to do is that you can let's say let's say if I take this request, right? So let's say you don't know these um, these parameters, right? So and what the param miner does is it actually uses a brute force list. This is actually a research done by researcher James Kell. Actually, I think he did this about something called black propagation or something. Yeah, I don't really exactly remember it, but based on that, based on his research, actually this tool was created to actually identify these endpoints. The parameters when we don't know. So let's say you don't know from to account and amount, and what if you run param miner on this request, it will try to identify all the possible parameters based on the response. So yeah, you don't have to like actually understand how this param miner works. You just can feed it the request that you want to test, and it will give you all the possible parameters for that. And it can do actually more than just mining params. So again, JS Link Finder is good, but this is also I think it's paid. It's only available for paid version for the web, but I've seen on GitHub you can actually find a similar version to this and get it. So what this allows you to do is when you visit the website on that, this will try to gather all the JS files, and it will using regex, and it will try to identify all the hidden endpoints, and it will give you all the endpoints by looking at all the JS files. And there's something called GAU. So this one is for finding historical data. So if you don't something called like wayback URLs or alien vault, which contains a lot of historical data about web history. So this help you also to get a lot of endpoints available. And then you can just find endpoints through this and feed that into param-miner and find parameters as well. So this is also another approach that I use whenever I look for bugs. So also there's a new tool called Arjun. I think this is also similar to param-miner, but this is a command line tool. So this is not integrated into burp. So next, after that part, I gathered all the endpoints and parameters. I go back to burp history, and then manually I inspect and try to find these critical endpoints, such as like previously we talked about like send money, send transfer or transfer money endpoint. So when I find that kind of endpoint, I send it to repeater and manually investigate by changing the parameters in there. So, and then one thing you can do always is just to observe the response that the server gives you, because sometimes when you, let's say, let's say you give a empty JSON object to as you request, right? Sometimes the server will respond you with that what are the required parameters that you need to send. That's actually can be really helpful if you don't know about what parameters to send to your to the site. So like that, you can always look what things you can manipulate on the response. You can look at the size of the response, the bytes, how much bytes you received. When you change some values, if the response changes, then you know you did something. So based on that, you can uh, either go further, like changing it further, and until you like hit something. So also you can, if you automating a process, which I'm not really not really doing that much of automation on this, but you can use something called autorize and auto repeater to automate some of the IDOR testings. Right. So now I will show you some demo with so I did not had a time to like actually prepare the different one, so I used this 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 one from Web Security Academy from Fort Sugar. So I'm not sure it's not working. Just give me a second. I will try to fix this. Right. So, right now let's say so let's just pretend this is like the website that you're testing, and to like so first we just need to set up the burp panel. I think you familiar with set up the burp suite with Firefox. If you're not, you can actually Google this, or you can also watch our previous sessions that we actually explained how to set up burp with Firefox. All you gotta do just to get this extension called proxy and install the burp certificate into Firefox. So after that, you can make sure that the request are capturing by the burp. So now what you need to do is just to visit the website like you normally do, how you do. So just visit every single page if possible, and then try to find interesting endpoints. Now, so I'll show you where the this vulnerability exists. So to give you idea. So in here, if I give this email address, and you can see if I go back to the proxy history, there should be a request. Yeah. So this is the request that's actually sent by the this website. Now you can see now in the body this parameter called email, right? So now let's say I didn't know about this email parameter. Now if I send this normally, and you can see that normally if you like missing a parameter, you get 400 with a bad request. And at this time, it doesn't say what parameters it required, right? So what you can do now is to actually go to extension, have a burp, and install this paraminer, right? You can actually install it from here, go to BF store and search paraminer. So in here you can install it. So after you install it, when you send a request to repeater, you can right click it, and in here you can see there's an option paraminer, and you can guess parameters. Now this does not detect it until you put something into the JSON body here. So you can so you can click on JSON parameter, and then you can just leave these settings as it is. Click OK. I'm not sure, this is kind of bugged. So you can not sure what's I think I'll try to restart this actually. Yeah. Okay. Now let's send the request again. Right. Now I will change this to something random. Okay. Now go into parameter and guess parameter and guess JSON and click OK. So if you go to the extension tab and click on your extension, then if you go to output tab on here, you can see all the discovered parameters if it find any parameters. Now this can take can take some time to actually search it. So until it find it, I will show you how to do it next. So all right, so now you can see the server response with the one that we send with email, right? So it also responds us with username, email, and API key and role ID. Now you can see this is an act as an object, right? So the server is updating kind of, I think it is account object of user. So, and this object has parameters like username, email, and API key and role ID, right? Now, for the website, it only allows us to like change the email, right? Now, I'm not sure what's happening with the web. So yeah, right. So let's try to change other parameters as well with email. Now, at this case, I don't think API key is going to do anything. So I'll remove that. And you can see that you can actually have a username field as well. So let's try to, so you can see the username field. If I like try to update this object, right, using the parameters that now that I gotten from the response. Now, this is also really a good way to discover parameters, is that when you send something, like when you send a request, sometimes in the response, it also disclose more parameters that you can access. Now, at this case, in this application does not properly validate that the role ID. So if I updated the role ID to 2, in the backend, it updated the role ID. So think of it as this. So role 1, ID 1 is a normal user, and role ID 2 is admin user. Now, this should not be possible for a normal user, because if the application did not properly validate this, a normal user can privilege escalate himself to become a higher role, or become a higher role such as admin. Now, in this case, if I update it to 2, and then it will update it as role 2. Now, if this worked, if I refresh this, now you can see I can actually access admin panel. And I was able to find quite a few bugs with like similar to this, like where the privilege escalation bugs, where you can just modify doing by just modifying this parameter, the return by the response. If you modify it, and you can actually get a higher roller. Now you can see this is actually looks very simple, right? Now think about like a SQL injection. If it's a cross-site scripting, how much effort that you need to put in to actually make it critical. You can find SQL injection and still it cannot, like some level of SQL injection is still not considered as critical if it is only like only allow user to like uh, execute queries within uh, like a limited space. But you can see like just by simply modifying simple parameter, I can just actually get complete access to this entire system. So in this case, I can just go to admin panel and delete this user. Oh, so this is actually possible on any known websites to find this stuff of vulnerabilities. So yeah, so look for like parameters like this. So I show you the extension result. Now you can see here, now it actually detect the parameter as email. So now if you didn't know what to actually give, you can actually use this tool to identify the parameters. Now I think if you go to, I think it was in the Pro or something. So if you go here, it actually shows the parameters that it identified. It's not available on the community version. It's okay. You can actually go to extension and read the output and get these parameters as well. So one thing I hate about Burp community edition is that you cannot actually save your files. So when you like doing this kind of let's say you doing this on a like a large scale application, and then every time you open Burp, you have like redo the whole thing, or just get a notes on a different application, note Notion or something. That's kind of annoying thing about Burp Community Edition. So if you can afford for the pro version, you can actually get it, but I don't think for just for testing these sort of bugs, it's actually uh, don't really need it to be honest. If you into like open source, you can also use SAP proxy. It's also really a good alternative for Burp. It actually has in some of them unique features, like you can actually have an overlay and inside your browser, which is really cool feature. We can do so much on the browser instead of going to Burp here. I can just within SAP proxy you can just do things on the browser as well, which is really cool. Yeah, so now I'll show you how to use the autorize. I don't think I can not sure what's going with the Burp. So this is what like the interface looks like on the autorize, and I will show you by sending a simple request to it. So now now how do you do thing is that no you can like change the let's say the cookie. So here you can place one of your account. Let's say you have you check on 2 accounts, so you need to see what features that what are the IDOS issues that can occur on the account. So you can place one account's cookie here, and then if you turn this on and then you visit the website on your second account, it will send all the traffic, the separate traffic through your previous account cookie here. So it will replace this cookie to your previous account one. So then it will send the request back, and it will try to find any privilege escalation issues. That's pretty very good way to automate things. You can just only thing you need to do is just browse the website on your second account, and if there is any security, any authorization issues, it will show it on this it will color and show you how it works. I can actually show you here. I don't know what's happening with the Burp Suite, but in here you can get the modified request and response, all that here, detailed versions. So that's a good way. Also, you can refer, there's like I think some really good tutorials on like how to use authorizer on YouTube. Integrity actually have a really good YouTube channel, so as Bugcrowd. You can also try to look for those to learn about these tools. Also, the auto repeater is really good tool as well. I haven't much used it, but in here you can do things a bit advanced than the autorizer. Yeah, you can actually modify not only the headers and all, you can modify the body parts and create custom ones as well, like filters and all through the auto repeater. So yeah, so that's for this one. Yeah. So do you have any questions so far about this or anything? So I also saw some of you actually asked some question about like how to automate, what is the best tools to identify IDOR vulnerabilities in web application. So best tools to identify in IDORs, as I mentioned, I would say try to do it manually most of the time, but because if you already relying on like automation, and you will miss so many good vulnerability types. So yeah, so try to do things manually as well. So automation is a good thing, but if you going to automate everything, you're gonna miss a lot more. So like this one, like you can automate this one, right? So in here, what I found here is that you just got the parameters from response and then modify it here, and then like you have to exactly know, like let's say you modified it, let's say you would also automated this as well, but you have to know what things to change here as well. So if you automate this, then automation tool can put anything here, so then it's not gonna probably work. So if you test manually, then you can tell how what value to actually place here. So that's also a good way. Automation is good for like testing, like the authorizer, you can like put a cookie and like go through your entire website. And what the good thing about is automation is that it's good for some testing types, but not for everything. Like especially like API testing, like this sort of endpoint testing, I would recommend you do manual testing. But if the application is like going with like cookies based one, then you can use automate testing for that. So yeah, if you also go with manual testing, you can find more, go into deeper into the application and find more some creative vulnerabilities as well. So the tools, if you again tools are the best tool that I know for burp is the autorize and auto repeater. I think there are also other tools as well, but I'm not really familiar with automation for that one. Okay, I have one question here. So what is the idol you have found while hunting that you are proud of? Can you explain how did you found the bug without sensitivity? So what is the one? So I was able to find one. Actually, it was a privilege escalation issue. So how I found it was so I did this kind of same methodology, right? And then what I did was specially was to like I actually read the JavaScript file to identify the hidden endpoints, right? So that's why I told you like use the JS link. As also I tend to use this browser DevOps tool as well. So you can go to like debugger tool here, and you can go read any JavaScript from here as well. And if it is like a React, right? So React, then you can like sometimes if it is has a map files, then it will show you the source code here, right? It will try to decode it and show you the result. And through that, I can find these endpoints. So that's how I found one for that. So I can't really tell you the name of the one. So I went through the JavaScript and I actually found this one endpoint. And when I hit that endpoint, so what happened was I had to create an account. So I went to that endpoint, and then it actually allowed me to like change some crucial data. So it's like so that endpoint actually had like when you like visit that endpoint, it has like create like in a storage, local storage as well. It had like a variable here, right? So it says like it's actually a really rare thing I really found. I don't really know actually how I actually found it. So it's like accidentally I found like there was something called ESAdmin. So when I changed the value, I was able to actually hit the admin panel here. So it just a front end manipulation. Then when I visited the all the endpoints inside the admin panel was actually uh, were not real properly authorized. So that was a really cool bug that I actually found, and actually it was marked as a critical issue. So yeah, so that's actually the so far the on bug that actually really found out. So also someone also asked about sure. Uh, Someone asked about also how to identify the impact and chain when finding bug, even IDOR or any other. So, the chaining bugs is also very important because sometimes, like when you find some issue, if there is no like impact, it will not going to consider as a bug. So, you need to always like think about how 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 much impact you can do to organization through this bug. So always think about, let's say this for example in this one here, right? So in the transfer section, transfer money example, this first you can just take someone else's money into your account. Now this is very crucial issue, right? So this is a critical impact. Now you can actually clearly see the impact here. So now this one you can like report it as a critical issue because it can be one, but sometimes there are IDOR issues, even cross-site scripting issues that does not actually have any impact. So therefore what you need to do is you need to find some more vulnerabilities and chain them together. So yeah, so if you can chain bugs together, like let's say, so like you can like sometimes get a like privilege escalation bug, and then you can access, let's say you can access the admin panel, right? And from that admin panel you can maybe there's an endpoint to like execute codes or remote code execution or something. And if you can do that also, that's going to be a very critical issue, right? It's even though like you can still access the admin panel, but like doing a remote code execution, that's just going to be very critical than the simply just accessing the admin panel. So that's actually, there's a lot more things you can do with chaining bugs, but I think you can learn about more about it is if you read most of the disclosed report by other researchers, and the most of the time they are in their report they mention is like how they chain bugs together. Like I remember one time there's a for Facebook. So when they actually chain, I think 3 or 4 bugs to get account takeover on Facebook. So that was a really creative vulnerability report. Actually, so yeah, it's like really small bugs. Like when you take like a one simple bug, you can't really see the impact, right? Some, I think I remember one was like CSRF token missing on like a login logout function or something. And but this researcher was able to like combine it with multiple other one bug and actually get an account takeover on Facebook. So that's how you like chain them together. Like sometimes they're like when you find a small bug, just don't immediately report it. Try to like find like something similar maybe, and then like try to chain them together and create a bigger impact, and then you report it. You will get like a higher severity bug. So that's how I think you should like should report to, like don't report like low severity bugs to those things. So do you have any other questions? Right. So there is no any more further questions. We will end up this session. So thank you guys for joining today. So if you have any more questions, you can contact us through our email, can support@bug0.io. And yeah, we will maybe